Joining us now, she is an Olympic gold medalist, part of the 2000 U.S. Olympic team that won the gold in dramatic fashion. Of course, the current head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, a Texas A&M Hall of Fame player as well. Speaking of Jennifer McFalls, who joins us for the first time here on In the Circle. Coach, how you doing?
Great, great. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Let's talk about your team. Obviously, in this fall, how has it gone for you? You got some new faces there, new faces coming in, as well as obviously some of the returners back. But how has that gone?
It's going really well. We have a really great group of young ladies this year. I would say, the chemistry's just been really, really strong all through the fall and off to a great start this spring. So, we don't have a huge roster. We're pretty thin on our roster, but I love the athletes that we have right now. A lot of versatility, young in the circle, but some really good arms and good athletes in the circle as well. So super excited to see this team compete.
For the returners from last year and for the staff, what do you take away from last year? You had some hot big moments there, some big wins there. I know you didn't finish the way you would have liked. Is that part of the message? Is finishing
No
the right
doubt.
way? Yeah.
No doubt. I mean, I thought we had a really, really solid season. We had a couple, really painful injuries. Losing our shortstop in the middle of conference was really challenging for us. She was a captain, and Sydney Ramsey. She was, four-time starting shortstop for KU, just great leader. And so, when she went down with a career-ending injury with the ACL, it's just it was pretty painful for us. But to be real honest, we have some young kids that stepped in. Those returners this year, specifically being Ashlyn Anderson, Haley Harper. They're both juniors for us, and they've had some really quality innings. Harper was hurt her freshman year, but she's a tremendous athlete. And so she'll be our shortstop for us this year, and just doing a great job, just stepping in and taking over the leadership piece as Sydney Ramsey left for her. So, but Ashlyn Anderson, I really can't say enough great things about her. We're excited to have her back for junior year. She's been starting for us at third base since her freshman year, and so I just think she's just very mature in that position, and she's also very versatile for us too. If we need her to move over to short for any reason, we can do that. Harper's also a great athlete that could easily transition over to second, but we have three great seniors returning for us. They've been really quality players for us from day one since I've been here, and they're not just great athletes. They're great kids that are doing the job in the classroom, and they also will be really good leaders for us. Macy Omley being a center fielder for us. She's got great speed. She covers, has a lot of range in the outfield for us. We have Cheyenne Hornbuckle, who really stepped up. She's always been just had some great roles for us, coming off the bench as some pinch hitters, being a DP, and then last year she started seeing some really quality innings at second base for us. Probably one of the biggest, strongest softball IQs on the team. Just love her energy, her compete factor. She also is she's kind of a quiet surprise for us at the plate, does a lot of good things for us offensively. Not a big kid, but just short and small and strong, and has great impact. And then Shelby Gare, I don't think she, probably had the offensive stats that she probably could put up for us last year, but she's a really strong catcher. She's very smart, does a really good job with controlling our pitchers. So that's going to be significant since our pitching staff is really young. But she has the ability to be a game changer for us at the plate. She's got a lot of power, and I know she's has very high expectations for herself this season.
Yeah, and she's so valuable. You just mentioned with a young pitching staff, and even though she didn't have the offensive numbers by her standards, she still hit 9 homers, 25 RBIs, so with a 526 slugging. That's not bad for a quote, not up to her standards. But talk about her value from a leadership standpoint, not at the plate necessarily, but behind, when she's there as a catcher.
She's just really calm, and she's a very mature catcher. She's very smart. And I think just her presence and her demeanor is going to be extremely important with our pitching staff. We have Casey Hamilton returning in the circle. That'll probably be, our number one. She's a lefty, and did some good stuff for us last year as a freshman. But she is tremendous compete factor. I expect really great things from her this season. But Shelby, just in general, we'll have two sophomores and two freshmen in the circle, and I just think she's going to be a really good sounding board and a voice for them to be able to kind of take control, and just kind of that the dynamic between the two of them will be tremendous. But yeah, I know she does some great things for us. She's that kid that's just so dependable every day in practice. And I'm excited to see what she does. I know she really wants to have a great senior year, and really put this team on her back. So I'm excited to see what she does with that.
Who are some of the new faces that you think will contribute to your offense?
Well, we have a freshman, Olivia Bruno. I think she is going to be incredibly impactful for us. She has a ton of power at the plate. She's very athletic. I mean, she's a big, strong kid that moves really well. She'll be in the circle for us quite a bit. She also, when she's not in the circle, she'll probably be at first base, but I anticipate her being in the offensive lineup every day. I mean, she's a game changer for us, for sure. Um, Lyric Moore, returning sophomore for us, started to see some quality innings and time late in the season for us last year. Very, very, very strong young lady. She catches, but I think she's probably going to see a little bit more time this year in the outfield. Been working really hard this season as a right fielder for us, but she too has tremendous power at the plate. I think Sophia Bazard, another player that was a freshman for us last year, didn't get a ton of innings and at bats, but she's a lefty power hitter for us. Will play in the outfield potentially, right field at times. Her and Lyric both, could see some quality innings out there. And then we picked up a transfer from Butler Junior College, Shayna Espy, who, she was one of the top JC players last year. I think one of the impressive stats for her, I think she finished her season last year with one strikeout, was a starting center fielder for them. So I kind of anticipate right now that she'll be in the leadoff position for us. And as a lefty, just a really, really quality hitter. And again, just a mature athlete that's going to bring us some depth in the outfield, and potentially as a leadoff hitter for us.
You mentioned the young pitching staff. Just tell us about the pitching, because last year we saw, you kind of went by committee, by a staff. Everybody stepped up, but now you got a younger staff here. So tell us about the staff and how you kind of envision them this year.
Well, like I mentioned before, Casey Hamilton, lefty, who probably saw the most innings out of that pitching staff last year. She's just got great movement. I think more than anything, what I love about this pitching staff in general is their compete factor. They're very talented. They're just young. We're going to have some bumps and bruises along the way, but I'm excited to see Casey and Savannah DeRoger. She'll be another returning pitcher for us as a sophomore. She's more of a down ball, off speed. She's, last year was coming off of an injury, so she didn't see quite as many innings and last year as I kind of anticipated, but I do certainly expect for her to be a big leader and spend some quality time in the circle for us. And then Olivia Bruno, as I mentioned before, another right-handed pitcher, has some decent velocity, a little bit more of a rise ball, change up pitcher for us. So it gives us a little different look than Sav. And then we have Katie Brooks. She throws probably the hardest of the four pitchers, but again, she's going to be a freshman for us. I know she competes really well. I'm excited to see what she does, as we move forward. But I think we've got four different looks, which is exciting for us. So I really anticipate this to throw all four of them quite a bit this season.
Yeah, I might mention last year, you had incredible wins last year. You beat Oklahoma State, beat Wichita State, Missouri, Northern Iowa, South Dakota State. I mean, those are all NCAA tournament teams. And I thought you would have been in the tournament had you finished strong last year. Is that part of
Sure.
the message to your team about being consistent? Because I remember you would have those marquee wins, but then you would have a letdown. Is that part of the process? And you're just in your fourth season, showing them how to win, right? That's part of the process of learning how to win. It's easy to get up for the big games, but it's every game being consistent.
Eric, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. I mean, that's something I've been preaching since I got to Kansas, is just the consistency piece. And so this is the first time I just feel like our returners I've been with now for 3-4 years, and we just, our relationship is so strong. And we have such a, I think they understand what I'm wanting. I certainly understand what they're going to bring to the table. But I, I'm just yeah, I guess the most painful part last season is we did have some really quality wins in some games that I was like, wow, I'm starting to see the light. We're turning the corner. And I think probably more than anything, the young ladies that we have returning for us this year, they know how devastating the finish was for us last year. And they certainly don't want to see that again. And so from day one, we've just been preaching consistency. Honestly, all of my returners, they they just bring the work ethic and the focus. It's just different. I'm going to tell you, it's different this year. And I am excited to just the energy that they bring to practice every day. They love each other, they fight for each other, they compete for each other. So I know we're a little bit thin just in terms of numbers. I mean, when I think about other programs that are carrying 30 and upper 20s on their roster, there's some growing pains with that, not
Yeah.
keeping kids happy. But I mean, the thing that I love right now about our team is we really, my focus every day, I'm very passionate about defense, and all of our athletes can basically play two or more positions. So I feel like we have a lot of opportunity to mix up some lineups, and when we do, I mean, if we do make some changes, there's not a big drop off. And that's what's exciting about, I think, about what we have. So we've got some speed, we've got some power. We've just got really good athletes on the field that probably more than anything, I think of, I was such a competitive athlete myself, and I'm not a very good loser. So, every time we step on the field and we're playing to win, and I think they're starting to really take on that mentality that I bring to practice every day. It's like, we've got to be scrappy. We may not be the powerhouse that OU and OSU, Texas may bring to the table this year, but I absolutely believe that this team, if we can win the games we're supposed to win this season, we're going to be in really good shape. In a lot better shape as we finish out. If we can
It's
just stay healthy,
yeah.
obviously with a thin team, that's going to be the key, I think, for us more than anything, is staying healthy. And if we can do that, then I think we're going to be in a really good place.
It sounds like the light bulb went out with the players, right? Like, because you could preach and talk about consistency and all that, but they went. You have to go through it, and I get a sense in listening to you that the players went. They saw that they were close because they
Yeah.
got those marquee wins. You're getting results, and you can't top results. And then they realized, man, we were that close. If we would have just done this or that, we would have been in the tournament. We would have done this and that. It sounds like not that you want to go through that, but maybe that experience will pay off here this year in the long run.
Agree. Sometimes you got to have it sort of hit rock bottom, and it kind of felt like that late spring in conference because we were moving, we were on a roll. And if you would have asked me that, I don't think we would have, had we not had the injuries and just a few setbacks, that I really don't think we would have finished where we did last season. But we got a taste of that. We know what it felt like. We've seen it. And the kids I have returning this year, it was painful for them. And so I just think now we have that mindset that, we've got to really trust each other. We've got to push on each other, and culture is a big part of that. Culture is a big part of that. And what does culture look like every day? Well, to me, I think it's showing up now because we have kids that are just pushing on each other, spending more time on their own. And when players start learning to kind of coach themselves, coach each other on the field, then, good things are moving in the right direction. And to me, that's a big part of our chemistry. They get along so well right now. And that's just, it's kind of fun to watch. I show up, practice is fun. It's fun. I mean, they are absolutely busting it, which is something I talk about every day. But the main thing about it is they're learning to coach each themselves, and they're coaching each other on the field. And I tell them, when the game starts, it's on them. I'm not on the field with them. Coach Wiggs is not in the box with them talking offense, and they've got to be able to think for themselves. And right now, they're really doing a great job with that.
Speaking with Kansas head coach Jennifer McFalls here on In the Circle. What interested you to come back to coaching and take over the Kansas program? What was it that drew you to come to Lawrence?
Honestly, I had a really great career as an assistant coach under, Connie Clark, who had been there forever. And just, I feel like she truly molded me and gave me an opportunity that I was ready to take on something a little bit bigger. And so just when this job did open and I had the chance to come here, it felt like the right fit from day one. I'm a blue collar kid that grew up just playing softball, learning that you get what you give. And I just felt like this program had so much potential. We had great facilities, great leadership. So I was just super excited about coming here and just kind of putting my stamp on it a little bit. I mean, the previous coaches before really did a great job. And, I just think a program takes on coach's personality a little bit. And so I was excited about the challenge. We have some challenges here with weather and so forth. I mean, it's not like we get to practice outside every day right now when it's in the teens. So we have some challenges when it comes to that. But learning to figure out what my recruiting base is. Um, Obviously, I have tremendous ties in Texas. I'm from there and spent 8 years there. So that's always going to be a real plus. But just establishing great relationships here in the Midwest now, and finding, there's a lot of talent here, a lot of great talent here in the Midwest. So finding the kids that absolutely are diehard Jayhawk fans and want to be here, and they're invested, and we have some great families. And what I think what I've loved more than anything is I've really been able to find some talent within the Metroplex here, as far as the Kansas City area, some local surrounding states, some pulling some talent out of Oklahoma, Arizona, just more of the Midwest area. And so we have a great crowd, great following, and we're just building. And, it doesn't happen overnight. I'm having to be patient a little bit, but I certainly think we're moving in the right direction.
And you build a staff that's pretty impressive. It's not every staff has a associate head coach that's been to the World Series as a coach. I mean, talk about bringing in Rich, that you've had on the staff, as well as Megan Langberth, who was really, I thought, some of the inner circles has stood out as well. Just talk about the staff as a whole, as you kind of when you envision and building the staff.
No doubt. I mean, I think the key to having a great program is having a really solid staff. And, Rich Willigman, he's obviously been a head coach. He's had a ton of experience, and I think he just loves and embraces his role every day. He's oversees our offense. And, to be real honest, one of the things that I love and I try really hard to do as a head coach is not to micromanage. And I don't have to do that with this staff. Coach Wiggs really spends quality time with our offense. He's changed our power numbers. He's really increased our overall stats and numbers just in the box. So I'm really excited about him. And he and I have a great relationship. I can bounce things off of him. We've been doing this a while, so I think we've pretty much seen it and done it at every level at some point. So we have a great working relationship. I have a lot of faith and trust in what he's doing with our offense. And then Megan Lemberth, she obviously had a great career, and she played at an amazing university at Northwestern as a pitcher, and she's from the Midwest. So she helped, you know, sort of bring some recruiting ties from the Midwest area for me. She's young, very young, but she's also a very mature mindset. She has, since from day one, since she's been here, she's really been digging in on the pitching piece. She has some really tremendous, great mentors that are, D1 coaches. One of her big mentors is a really dear friend of mine, Bev Smith at South Carolina. So, that's what young coaches have to do. They just got to dive in. And what I love about Megan is she's very creative. She's also does a lot of mental training with our pitching staff, which is very, very helpful. But she's very invested, and she works her tail off every day at trying to find new things and being creative. So I think she's starting, this is kind of, I hate to even count her first year because we went through COVID. So last year was really her first year to actually go through the Big 12. And, it was challenging for her. Now, obviously, we see some of the best teams in the country in the Big 12. So I think she had a lot of learning takeaways from that. And, she came back this summer more energized, more drills, more mental, toughness opportunities and skills to bring to our pitching staff. So she's really done a good job. I love having her around, and excited about this staff. And I have a former player that's a graduate manager for us, a player I coached at the University of Texas, who's now with me as a graduate manager, played shortstop there, Caitlin Slack. So having another, I feel like somebody who's I've been around for a very long time. She knows my style. She's doing a great job helping and assisting with us on the defensive piece and on the offensive piece with Coach Wiggs. So, we have some really quality coaches, and I'm just excited about this staff.
Rightfully so. You've had a fascinating coaching career because you mentioned you were an assistant under Connie Clark at Texas from 2010 to 2018. You played at Texas A&M. You're in the Hall of Fame at A&M. You're an All-American shortstop there, one of the greats ever to wear there. You also coached there. You've coached at Oklahoma. Not many people can say that trifecta, Coach. That's a pretty impressive list there. What is that like coaching in those three different places and being around those three institutions? That's a heck of a coaching journey there.
It has been. I've been really blessed. I mean, obviously had a great career at A&M, and having the chance to stay on and finish up my degree while I was still playing. I still coached one more year under Coach Brock, who was our head coach at A&M at the time, who had three national championships. And he and Sean Andia, who was an All-American pitcher at A&M, I mean, really kind of kick-started my career as a coach. Spent one year under Joe Evans, her first year as the head coach at A&M. So got a chance to be with her my last year there. And then obviously Patty Gasso giving me the opportunity to go to OU as her assistant at the time, where I was a recruiting coordinator. I was super young, and man, she just threw me out in the fire and let me go do my thing. And I honestly, I probably would have stayed there hopefully several more years, but I was it's kind of in that tough time of my career trying to still finish out as a player and a coach. And, it was really hard one day when I went to Patty and just said, "Hey, coach, I feel like I need to make a decision, to really focus on playing right now." And she kept telling me, "We'll figure this out." But it just didn't feel fair to me at that time to try to be a head coach. I mean, being a coach at the Division I level and try to finish out my career as an athlete. So, unfortunately, I stepped away from coaching a little while and finished out my career. And, obviously that ended up being a pretty good decision for me to have a chance to go on and play in the 2000 Olympics. So, I couldn't be more grateful for those coaches that have given me that kickstart of an opportunity early in my career and had the faith. And I guess, looking through that crystal glass of feeling like maybe someday I would be in a seat like today as a head coach. But I'm really fortunate for that. And then obviously stepping away from coaching a while and just doing my thing as an athlete and dabbled in a couple different stuff. Went back and just started back at the high school career. And that was fun too. It was fun to just sort of kind of give back to some young athletes, and really enjoyed my years at the high school level. And then, Connie Clark and I had crossed paths a few times, and few opportunities came up with her. And I just kept telling myself, man, if I ever get the other opportunity again, if she gives me another chance to go back to Texas, I'm not going to say no. And so when she called a second time and offered me a position to go back to Texas, I jumped on that. And man, it's been a great ride since.
That's an incredible list of coaches you've been around. Yeah, like you had no choice. You had to get into coaching and you being around those people, right? Was that something that you wanted to do all the time, or was it something that just evolved getting into coaching?
I think that's a great question because, as a female athlete, I don't think I went to college necessarily. I always thought I was going to go be a physical therapist, go that route. And, the doors just kept opening. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get those opportunities. And for me, my junior year of college, I was all American and had my first chance to go play some international ball. And obviously worked a ton of camps, and I just found myself being more and more passionate about coaching and having an impact on athletes and sharing your story and the journey that you'd been on. And so, I think once I started playing at the international level, playing, for the national team, and coming back and having a chance to have, speak and be a clinician and represent, and I think it just I started to realize how much I had a chance to impact young female athletes. And I think that's what I loved more than anything, was just building those relationships and going back and helping young women figure out their path and their journey. And I obviously a lot of freshmen coming in here, a really, really, really bright group of young ladies, and several of them that are, here that are 3, 5 and above that plan to go to medical school, and they've got their journey, and it's exciting to see what their career path has. And then it's fun to be able to pull somebody back like a Caitlin Slack, who I've coached and mentored for a number of years, and now I have her by my side, as a graduate manager that's going to be a great coach someday. So it's been fun.
It's been incredible. Talk about your career. You kind of came around that time where we kind of started learning that softball would be in the Olympics. Atlanta in '96. You ended up being an alternate on that team. What was that like going through that at that time? We're like, oh wow, we could be in the Olympics. You try, make the team in '96. You make it, but as an alternate, you get to see it. So you had to kind of sit and watch. What was that experience like, and how did that help you get to 2000, where you would play a pivotal role on that gold medal team in 2000?
It was one of the best things and one of the most difficult things I've ever been through as an athlete. I was really fortunate. The timing is everything, right? When it comes to career and opportunities. And as a sophomore in college, I remember our assistant coach saying, "Hey, McFalls, you thinking about trying out for the Olympic team someday?" And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" I mean, I never in my life thought I would truly have that opportunity and chance. But I still to this day think about showing up for my first time in like '95, and there was like 250 athletes with just a number on their jersey in Oklahoma City going through a tryout process. And at the end of like a 5-day tryout process, walking down the hall and seeing my name listed, on a door that said I was going to be an alternate for the first ever Olympic softball team in '96. It was very emotional. And it was such a great honor to be one of those 5 alternates and part of that team that traveled and toured the United States all over the place. I mean, it was the most unbelievable experience. I mean, you had so many women that had played and pioneers of the game that had opened up those doors for us, that were so excited about softball being in the Olympics. But at the same time, I mean, I knew that once we got to the games, unless somebody got hurt, I was probably going to be on the bench and, or in the stands, which is basically what ended up happening. So, you got a taste of it for an entire year of representing the United States and playing and traveling and touring 55 cities across the country and all over the world. And then once the games began, then all of a sudden the alternate sat in the stands. It was painful. It was hard. But to be real honest, it just made me hungrier to be more committed and more disciplined, to like, you know what, I got this for 4 more years. And so after the '96 games, then I just reinvested myself and refocused on the chance of staying on the national team. And was really fortunate to stay on the national team for the next 4 years, to go to the Pan American Games and win a gold medal, go to the World Championship Games and win a gold medal. And And then obviously in 2000 being a part of the 15 instead of one of those 5 alternates, and truly having the chance to stand on that podium at the end of those games was just and the most rewarding and most awesome experience that an athlete could ever possibly go through.
Pretty dramatic Olympics too. I mean, it wasn't easy. You got, yeah, that was adversity y'all dealt with in 2000. I mean, there was this myth that for a while that, well, the U.S. dominates softball. That wasn't the case. Everybody was going after you, but you were a big part in getting to that gold medal. You scored the winning run against Australia, the host team in Sydney, to win 1-0 to play in the gold medal game, and then you ended up scoring the game-winning run in the gold medal game in extra innings against Japan to win. So the moral of the story is you need to be on the team so you could score the game-winning runs if I'm Team USA. But talk about that experience. I mean, it was not a guarantee. I mean, it looked for a while like, oh, you may not get to the gold medal game there. There were some challenges there, but you all overcame it and won that gold.
We did make it easy. I think it's truly one of those things I relate back to, especially as a coach. I mean, USA softball, we were so dominant. I think we had less than 5 losses in our career, or my career, on the USA national team. We dominated for years and years and years. And, the other countries just kept fighting and doing their homework. And, obviously Japan, just tremendous program. Australia had a tremendous program. They had the same group of the athletes every year after year. And so, we would just continue. I think they just kept getting better. And when we got to the games, it's like what we say as a coach now, if you can just get to the dance, if you can just get to postseason, anything can happen. And it was that same way when we got to Australia. We had to fight and claw, and losing 3 games in a row over there was like the one thing that I know that our team, we had already experienced what it was like for 4 years, and to win the gold medal in 96. So we had a lot of veteran players on our team that just kept saying, hey, we got this. And we truly just had to trust each other and trust each other's roles. And, we had some great leadership. I mean, to have the opportunity to be on the same team with Lisa Fernandez and Dot Richardson and Crystal Bustos, Michelle Smith, we were truly a family. We were in each other's corner. We all knew our roles. And, when Lisa Fernandez stepped out on that game for the championship day, we had all the faith in the world that she was going to do her job. And so, yeah, we just embraced our roles. And I was there, as when you only have 15 players on the roster, every role is important. And 5 of our players were pitchers. So, it really left, I was kind of the one versatile utility player on the team. I could play infield, outfield. And so actually in the Olympic Games, I think I'd played second base a game, third base a game, short a game. I mean, and then obviously had the opportunity to come in and score the winning run for us in the last 2 games, which was so pivotal. But, it allows me now as a coach to go back and just remind our athletes how important their roles are. At any given moment, you can be a game changer. And, if you get called upon to come in and be a pinch runner, you need to be the best pinch runner that you can possibly be. And so being prepared for every role. I mean, one of the things when I think about our roster this year is we have some players that will essentially be defensive specialists for us. They will come in late in the game because I know that they can come in and they're the best person to be in a certain position for us defensively. We have some players that are more offensive, minded, that are going to come in and be potential game changers for us at the plate. And so I continue to talk about how important your role is on the team. At any given point, you can come in and be the difference maker for your team.
That's incredible. And that's an incredible group you're around. I mean, Laura Berg, Stacey Newman, Lisa Fernandez, but yet you're the one that goes down in history, scoring that game-winning run to win the gold. I mean, how often do you think about that? And do you talk to your players or recruits about that? Do you bring out a gold medal and kind of show it off? Because that is historical there. I mean, that's an historical moment. And obviously we just had the Olympics a year ago here in Tokyo, different atmosphere, but that was a big focus. But that's incredible thing that you'll remember forever.
It's a blessing to be able to share my story, to be real honest. And I don't it, I'm pretty humble about it. I don't really talk about it a lot unless people ask me, but it's fun. It's fun. I love sharing it. And I always get some great questions. Just probably more so from the parents than I do the players, because our kids now are so young. They're like, man, you're old, you played in the 96, 2000. I mean, God, they weren't even born. Some of them weren't even born yet. So it's kind of laughable, but you know what? I think it's still quite an honor. I have my medal at my house, and when my team comes over, it's always kind of fun to see them go down, and they want to pull it out and they want to hold it and touch it, and I'm just excited that some of them have those same dreams. They want to be Olympians. They want to go on and have a chance to play professionally, and just to be able to, I think, maybe talk about it and share my experience, and for them to see some photos and be able to truly hold a gold medal in their hand is something that not everybody gets a chance to do. So I will forever be blessed to be able to share that with anybody that ever wants to see it or hold it, and thankful that I had those experiences, and they weren't always easy. It's not like, somebody just rolled out the red carpet and went, go win a gold medal. I mean, when you have to train on your own, and back in the day, we certainly didn't have all the technology and all the facilities that our athletes have now. So it was different. It was different for us. But my heart goes out to those young athletes that were training to go to Tokyo and having to deal with COVID, and to be real honest, I felt like this past Olympics was just sad because they didn't get to experience the fans and the true Olympic experience that I got to go through with opening ceremonies, and the thousands of athletes in the village and so forth. I mean, to me, there's so many pieces that I go back and I think about. I mean, I had a chance to work for NBC a little bit back in Nashville, and so I did this little short story journal every night. They sent me a camera, and so I had some fun with that when I was in the village, of interviewing some of my teammates and sharing some of those experiences that some of the other networks didn't have the inside capabilities to do. And so I just embraced my role and just tried to share my experience with the world every time I got a chance to.
No, you're right, and it's funny you mentioned you were in the stands as an alternate. Well, last year's alternates, they all had to leave because of the protocols and everything like that, so they couldn't even stick around uh, for the games, which is tough. And obviously now we wonder, when will we see it back? Everybody's hoping 28 in Los Angeles. What's it like for you seeing the Olympics, how it's evolved with softball, and obviously the ups and downs that it's been with, the drought from '08 to last year, and then what they had to go through last year, and now we wait again to see if we'll get back in 28.
It is. It's painful to watch, and to think that today that we're still not guaranteed to be in the Olympics every 4 years. I do not understand how you can keep softball out. It's one of the most biggest watched games obviously here in the United States. And when I think about the other countries, how much they've grown and how big softball is in Japan and Australia, I mean, it just blows my mind. Even Italy and Mexico now, to have that team. I mean, I don't understand how it could be a challenge to keep us out. But I still go back and I think, what, the game is still the game. And we still have some of the most tremendous athletes here in the United States. We have some unbelievable coaches out there. I mean, no doubt Heather Tarr, who just took over with the national team, is going to do a phenomenal job. And I just think that the more we can stay engaged, the former athletes that have been through the process, I served on the selection committee a couple rounds, and every time I had a chance to just be involved and help give back to USA softball, I took advantage of that. And I think that that's what, our athletes have to continue to do, because, the Kat Ostermans, the Jenny Finches, I mean, Monica Abbott's that have been there, done that, they're going to have to continue to tap into USA softball and find ways to just continue to share those experiences, because, when you get on that big stage, it's challenging mentally and physically. And you've got to be able to handle the pressure. And, when you get to the World Series here in the United States, it's like anything could happen. But at the end of the day, it's the players that really embrace the pressure, that want to truly be on the big stage and be a difference maker for a team, that has that championship mindset when they step on the field, that compete factor, that burn that's in their belly, that it's just different than it is for somebody else. And I can still feel that. I mean, it never goes away for me. I still feel like I was standing on second base when Laura Berg was up at the plate and came up to get that game winning hit for us. I mean, I'll never forget that feeling. I'll never forget what it felt like to just be in front of that crowd, in front of 15,000 people of a sellout, and shoot, now what a Hall of Fame stadium has, how many seats in the stands now?
It's
It's a big,
expanded, yeah.
it's huge. It's huge, but the pressure is a privilege. And
No,
if you can embrace it, and you want to be in that role, and you can handle that mentally and physically, then you're going to do great things.
couple more things before we let you go. You were a coach of the Texas Charge in the NPF. Helped start that franchise up. Coach players like Laura Hager, Kaylee Novak, at UCF, I knew covered, and things like that. What's your thoughts on the overall landscape of the pro game? There's now Athletes Unlimited, but now 2 seasons in, NPF no longer existence. But there's going to be started up another pro league with Lauren Chamberlain involved. As somebody who kind of was involved in the pro game there for a little bit, what's your thoughts on the pro game here in the States?
Honestly, I all the credit goes to the athletes. I give them so much credit for staying so driven to make it happen. And to see players like Laura Chamberlain who've been in it, done that, and to step away and still find a way to stay invested of, kickstarting another league. I hope, I don't know that we're strong enough to have multiple leagues going in different directions, but if we can somewhat stay unified and continue. It's an amazing game. It's an amazing game to see those athletes play. It's unbelievable. So I really, I am so inspired by the athletes that have been so committed to drive the ship, and to continue to create, the energy that they're doing to, in that atmosphere, because it hasn't been easy. It's not financially rewarding. It's not, I mean, there's a lot of women that sacrifice a lot of things in their life to play in the pro level, but honestly, they're keeping it alive and they're keeping it going, and it's still giving, I think, our collegiate athletes a lot of hope and desire that they'll have a chance to go on and play professionally someday.
Big 12 is always challenging. You've been a part of the Big 12 in so many different variations. You've seen it all in the Big 12, and change is coming in the Big 12 here down the road, with Oklahoma and Texas eventually moving on to the SEC, UCF, Houston, BYU coming into the Big 12. What was your reaction as all that has evolved? As somebody that has seen the Big 12 go through a lot of changes over the years, from the Big 8 to the Big 12. A&M used to be, and it was in the Big 8, Big 12. Now they're in the SEC, etc. What was your reaction as all this was going on?
It makes me sad, to be real honest. I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I love playing OU, 3 times a year. I mean, that's not fun for anybody, right? But it makes me sad to lose those competitive rivalries. But uh, obviously everybody's going to make their decision for what they think is best for their university, and that's way beyond my pay grade. So I know that the teams right now that are planning to come in and join the Big 12 are, from a softball standpoint, they're great programs. And I'm excited about those teams joining us. I still think we're going to have tremendous softball in the Big 12. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Those teams that are joining us, the BYU, Houston, I mean, geez, Central Florida, I mean, they've done some amazing things in all three of those programs. So I don't feel like, obviously losing a team like OU and Texas, um, that are going to be top 10 contenders, potential World Series, World Championship teams every year, is hard. But no doubt that we're still going to play them. I mean, obviously Norman's 4.5 hours down the road. So I have a great relationship with Coach Gasso, so I'm sure we'll keep those ties. But Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to see the landscape changing. It was painful back at Texas when A&M pulled out and went to the SEC. It wasn't as hard for me because I didn't, my A&M roots and all the
Right.
people back at A&M didn't really love that I was coaching at the University of Texas. So it was very difficult for me to, as a coach, to go back and play at A&M. But you build in those rivalries for so many years, and that will always be a part of me. So I'm thankful for to be able, like this year, to be able to schedule to go back to play at Texas A&M, and take my team back there, and have that experience and share some of my memories and experience with them. But it's going to be interesting to see how some things unfold. I mean, no doubt the SEC is unbelievable softball conference, and they just loaded up with two more powerhouses on that end. So it's going to be very interesting to see how things unfold for the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no doubt. We're gonna have to bring you back in to kind of go dive into more of that A&M Texas rivalry deal. Having been on both sides of that, that's a fascinating deal. But obviously, you got a season to get ready, and that'll be my last question. You mentioned earlier, health is a big part of the key to having success. Outside of the health, what's the keys for your team to accomplish your internal goals?
um Consistency, consistency, and just trusting their abilities. I feel like we have some really, really great athletes. We're a very athletic team this year. And they just got to trust. They got to trust themselves and trust their personal performance, and not play scared. Every time we step on the field, we got to win the games we're supposed to win. But we talk about being ready on day one. And obviously there's some different phases to our season, but I just think we have to have that mindset that we're good enough to play with anybody. And if we do, then we'll continue to have a strong presence in the Big 12. No doubt the Big 12 is going to be strong. So I just want to give us a chance to put ourselves in the right position. And I think if they do that, then good things are going to turn out for us at the end of this year.
Well, Coach, we certainly are wishing you well on that, and looking forward to seeing your team on the field. But thank you so much for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, but it's a blast to get to talk to you about so many topics. If we've had you on, we've kind of had you on the bucket list here for a while. We've had so many of the Olympians. Laura Berg keep telling me off. You got to get McFalls on sooner or later, so she'll be
Yeah,
happy.
she's a great one. I wish I could share the competitive spirit that Laura Berg, what being a teammate of Laura Berg's every day. That I mean, we competed at everything. We play If we weren't playing softball, we were playing cards, we were playing dominoes, we were everything we ever did. It was we competed to win. There was no mercy on anybody. And I think, that's the key today with teams, is surrounding yourselves with that mentality that every time you step on the field to play, you play to win. Every time you play something, you play to win. The compete factor is huge. You cannot replace that with you can be one of the best players in the world and have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have that burning compete factor in your belly, then you're not going to win. And that's what being a teammate of somebody like Laura Berg brought that to me every day. She made me want to be the best player I could be every single day. And I just think that that's key at the end of the day with teams winning championships, is surrounding yourselves with the same mentality every time you step on the field.
I think she earned the accolades of being the most decorated softball U.S. athlete of all time. I mean, that's she
Yeah,
earned it.
she was fun to watch. Fun to watch.
We'll definitely
So
get you. We'll definitely get you back on and go dive into, because I know you got stories. You got stories to share. Stories to share. So when
oh, sure.
we'll bring you back in the offseason. But in the meantime, Coach, good luck this season. Stay safe and healthy there with your team there, and we'll certainly definitely talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.